I'm Marta Keil. I'm a curator, dramaturg, and researcher based in Warsaw. And I'm one of the instigators of the Grand Reunion project that, as many of you know, has been planned as a live gathering last June. But because of the pandemic, we decided to translate it in a way into an ongoing series of gatherings and series of online issues. And this month, I'm very happy and very lucky to co-curate the issue with Zeynep Ükünlü, who is also with us today, an artist based in Istanbul. And together we decided to tackle the notion through the choreography practice, and not only choreographic practices, we decided to tackle the notion of interdependence. And we wanted to kind of zoom out, so to speak, our perspective while looking at the choreography territory and try to see it, let's say, from the broader perspective, try to understand how actually the choreographic practices are being situated, in which context, in which kind of landscape of the relations with humans and other than humans, and the constellation of different urgencies, also political or economic one, social ones, of course, and in the constellation of different, let's say, movements, tendencies, but also tensions and desires. And therefore, this month, we invited the artists, thinkers, researchers, and curators to, in a way, think together on the notion of how are we situated in the current context, but also how a choreography practice can or is being situated in relationship, or is being actually a tool to create relationships with other bodies of human, but also with bodies of more than humans. And how does it change our own, in a way of understanding where we actually are situated, and how can it influence our agency and the current context that we operate within. And we start this afternoon session with Agata Siniarska, a choreographer based in Berlin, and with Kasia Swoboda, who's a curator, researcher, and writer based in Łódź. And we will talk together about so-called other archives and the way of choreographing archive. And the conversation between Agata and Kasia is being based or has been kind of sparkled by the exhibition they did together at the Art Museum in Łódź. The exhibition that has just been closed down, and that has been entitled Landslip, and that is kind of addressing the notion of the archive, investigating the so-called multi-species archives and their different ways of materialization. Like they investigated the artworks as kind of traces of the life presence of the artist, and as kind of, let's say, materialized aspects and materialized affects of their work, of the artist's work, of the artistic choices, but also of their own situation in their ecosystem, in their political situation, in their social constellations. And before giving voice over to Agata and Kasia, I just wanted to quote a sentence from the description of the exhibition that I love the most, probably, and that seems to me a kind of promise, if you want. And I do hope that we will continue the conversation from that point of view also this afternoon. And the sentence is: when the worlds are sleeping, when they gradually disappear, we need a new type of story concerning the difficult art of survival on our destroyed planet. So the floor is yours, Agata and Kasia.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the Grand Reunion project is really dear to me, so I'm so happy that we can share this time with Agata and with all of you. And we, of course, are now a bit nostalgic because the exhibition ended. So we want to share with you some photos, which I rarely do. because they don't reflect that much of the exhibition as a spatial situation. But yeah, but we got nostalgic, and we thought that it would be nice to gather the materials to kind of reflect a little bit on what happened in the show. So I will share my screen with you. Yes. Still. So the exhibition was part of the prototype series, which we came up with to invite artists to work with the collection of Muzeum Sztuki, and it was a way also to invite not only visual artists, but artists from different fields who could come up with totally new ideas and new approaches to the collection that will surprise us. And so it was a field for testing critical and subversive potential of artistic gestures that are outside of our visual art and our history as avant-garde museum. So we treated the museum collection as a resource to be reused again and again and again. So in this particular project, I think Agata surprised me, of course, with her approach, and it was unorthodoxical for me. Yeah, but we will go to that later. And I'm very happy that we could kind of go with the story that we can imagine in different directions. So it was an experiment for sure. And maybe I will give the floor to Agata now to tell more about the archives. And I will show also the slide with all of the artists that we selected from the collection of Muzeum Sztuki. That are there. You will see later in the slides that are in the that has like time span in the collection of Muzeum Sztuki differs from 60 years to 2 years. So we also approached the museum collection in that angle, like time spans. Yeah, so the floor is yours now, Agata.
Thank you, Kasia. I sometimes will speak I, and sometimes I will speak we, because I think that this process lasts for such a long time. We actually shared it. We shared pandemic through this process, exchanging lots of ideas, lots of thoughts, and it's hard, I think, really to trace or to really pinpoint, oh, this was my idea, this was your idea. And I think that's also really beautiful to see how, if we talk about interdependency or entanglement, how already on the level of thoughts was happening not only between us, but also between us and the artists that we invited, and also the writers that were inspiring us, and they were constantly with us. And the most present was Ursula Le Guin, a science fiction writer who actually was feeding us constantly with her idea of stories. So we came with, maybe I will start with when Kasia invited me. I knew that I'm not an art historian. I don't come from visual arts, and I didn't want to pretend that that actually I am an expert on that. Of course, for a moment, I was a little bit in panic what I can propose, and Kasia was, as a really great curator with really care, bringing care all the time between us. She was really insisting on my practice, my artistic practice, and bringing the practice. And thus the choreography was from the beginning in thinking about this exhibition. The choreographic thinking was very present. But I was thinking about, well, first of all, that the Museum of Arts in Łódź is a very noble institution. First of all, the museum, not a gallery, so it's already something more heavier. And then lots of artworks that I even cannot question, or I can't think like if I can put them upside down, not of course literally. We can't touch artworks in the museum, of course. So I thought that, of course, I know that there are artworks. I know that they're made by wonderful artists. This is unquestionable. But I was trying to find a way how I can look at them from the different perspective. Not forgetting about this one, but to really find another angle and to really a little bit expand what we think about the exhibition as an exhibition or museum or artwork just generally. And that's this idea of archive came to me because archive and collection, when we think in a very general, like a general matter, they have something in common. So there is a certain catalog, there is a certain way of putting things together, putting things in order to fix them. And for me, the question was, we actually do not put in archives only numbers and names and fixed moments. We put matter, and matter is something that is always alive, that is always movable. And archive somehow brings matter and asks matter to stop, to be in one spot, to be not to last in time, but being out of time. And my kind of fantasy was like to look at the artworks from the matter perspectives, looking how different matters, entanglements of matter, because many artworks, or it's not only one kind of matter, there are many of them working together, and each of them works completely different. How this, let's say, dance or this choreography between them is happening, and how it's actually moving. And thus, I think, and that's what does it archive? What is archiving? Sorry. Yeah. So if matter is in movement, then what if we will think about archives as something movable, not something that really freezes time, freezes the moment, freezes the history, but allows things, matter, to travel, and how we can then accompany these kind of idea of archives. Yeah, so that was, let's say, the starting point of thinking about this exhibition.
Yeah, so I think that and it was intuitional for me that I wanted to start with. We selected some of the works of the artist, of course, not all of them, because we don't have time for that. But at some point I decided, and I proposed it to Agata, that where I could talk a little bit, because we shared the time, of course. And as you see, we are choreographing this whole situation here. That we start with Simon Forti, whose works are in our collection since 2 years, 3. Yeah, this year it will be 3 years, because her drawings from the series News Animation are exactly like the archiving, in a way, thought, like the process of making works. And as you may know, Simon Forti, of course, you probably know Simon Forti as a dance pioneer, a contemporary dance pioneer and revolutionary artist who combined visual arts and choreography, but she started as a painter. And so she was, and she still is, drawing a lot. She has a couple of series, but what we were able to acquire to the museum are the drawings, and I only show here the one of the drawings from the collection of news animation, and it was a series of drawings that accompany again the performance works, the choreographies, the improvised actually choreographies from the news animation series that she also recorded, a couple of them recorded, and here we were able to show the Zuma News, which was recorded on the beach, as you see. And as I was thinking now, preparing for the talk about what it archives, what it captures, and what matters are intermingled and intertwined in this, is of course the body, the seaweed, the newspapers, the sand, the waves. Like the video is full with the sound of wind and waves. So
Kasia, sorry, can you show the slide?
I'm showing it now.
Oh, I don't know why I see still artists from the collection. So I don't know if
I'm
it's
showing
only.
it.
Yeah, I'm afraid I also don't see the rest of the slides.
Yeah.
It's
Maybe
really
we can
strange,
start
because
sharing screen again. Maybe that would help. Oh yes,
Oh,
now
we have it.
Sorry, so I have to, yeah, sorry. So these were because I was showing them in the, yeah, you see now?
Now we see them. Yes, yes.
Okay, sorry, so I will show them again. I don't know, because for me they were changing here in a computer, sorry.
Technology. We are analog, so
Yeah, so this is the yeah, thank you for that, because I was in the middle of you talking, I was also showing the, yeah, and now you can see Simon Forti, Zuma
Yes.
News. Yes. Oh my god, because oh yeah, there was something. Okay, I'm sorry, I am not a Zoom master, unfortunately. So another artist that we chose from the collection of Muzeum Sztuki was Jadwiga Maziarska, and she was a pioneer of matte, textural, or tacheism. That was the term in France, and international, of course, in painting in Poland. And her collages and her textual work is made of matter again, but really consciously put together. Really, there are scraps of material here, as you can see, and scraps of the newspapers and magazines that her friends brought to her from the outside of communist Poland. So you can see also the traces of what was outside of the visual environment in Poland, and these were the sketches also for her paintings. So for us, I think her work was really interesting, of how it archives her visual imagination, how it is fragmented and scattered, and how it's a trace of the process, basically, which in visual arts back then was a little bit hidden. So even these collages were not for her the main work of her only the sketches for the later paintings that were more prestigious. Yeah, here again. And the other artist was Maria Jerema, who was, as maybe you can trace it in her visual works, paintings. She called them monotypes, which is a technique that combined graphic and painting. And we can see here, I think, as I can see here, the traces of her being a sculptress before, and actually starting with the sculpture. She was educated as sculptress, but she wanted to have more, I think, control of the outcome of her experiments, which was more, I think, available in the drawing and in visual techniques. And she was really working with that, I think we can say choreographically, because she was moving around the canvas or the paper as here, and the paper on the canvas was lying on the floor flat. So it was different kind of approach to the surface and to what is there, like basically what movements does it capture, and also a lot of, maybe not a lot, but a few a few art historians were and are still finding the traces also of, or the references to of these forms and shapes and movement and in transformation to the nervous system of the human body, or even the traces of different kind of living, more than human living animals or organisms. So it was really exciting to also show her work in this also more than human context. And now the floor is yours, Agata.
Yes, maybe if you don't mind to come back. Yes, we have Alina, but before that there were two slides at the beginning that were showing this kind of main perspective when you enter the exhibition.
I won't switch now, and yeah, so I have.
It was just before. Yes, so for example, this was the entrance, like there were like three let's say corridors, and that was the main one somehow that was leading to the big beach, which I will talk in a moment. But I just wanted to mention more that if we think about the matter as something that is in movement, that means it is in a constant transformation. And transformation for us many times from human perspective is decaying, is destroying, is dying. And the perspective of this exhibition was also created, let's say, from up to down, slipping down towards the beach, big beach, that somehow the biggest sculptures were standing in the front, and slowly the entire landscape was going down, with, of course, with some exceptions, but let's say that we were trying to build this kind of heaviness of going down to this enormous sculpture, which is called Big Beach, and we can go to her.
I will do it more slowly, so it won't.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
and
yeah.
Yes, still Jadwiga.
It's not, you know.
It's good to. Yes, that's a little bit showing. Okay, so we are on the big beach, and that was actually the first sculpture that we chose. Actually, Kasia suggested it. That's why don't we do that?
No, I showed you, and you were screaming with excitement. That's how.
Yes, it's a really beautiful. I think it's 3 meters per, like around 2, right? Rectangular, lying very heavily on the floor. And the base is made out of wood, and on top of it there is this black slime or
lava, like
lava stuff, which out of this lava, as you can see, maybe on this picture not that much, but if you come closer you see some fingers. And on top of it, there are bellies, these brown things, they are bellies. And these are bellies of Alina, because Alina was doing a lot of, what's the English word? Odlew.
Odlew, I can't remember.
Yeah, well, anyway, these bellies are head bellies. That means that the polyurethane, which she was using to make them, it was touching her belly. And that's, I think, also fascinating in her work, because somehow her parts of the bodies are really there. They were really in physical touch with what we see 50 years later. We can go to the next one. That's also 2 wonderful sculptures of Alina Shaposhnikov. The one on the back is called Journey, which here also you cannot see, but this posture, this woman is really at the edge of gravity. I had this big honor to lie down under her butt for 20 minutes, which not everybody can say out loud that had this pleasure. But it's really a sculpture that's trying to go out of the gravity. I was working a lot with this posture. I was trying to mimic it, and it really tenses the muscle. Even looking at it, your muscles in your legs and your hands immediately gets really, really tense. Cast. Thank you so much, Alicja Strzycel. I'm really sorry. It's just a little bit nervosity. And usually we were talking about this exhibition in Polish, so please forgive me this slip. I had a slip of my memory. And then in the front, partly we see Bouquet. It's also on top of it, these are the lips of Alina. So these casts were actually touching her lips. So Alina somehow is physically, there is her imprint on these sculptures. And maybe one further on, I think it's already Agata Ingarden. Oh no, so let's still come back to one back to Bouquet and to Journey. Thank you. So also in this presentation, we add some information how what were the groups of materials or entanglements of materials that were creating these sculptures. And these were also the descriptions that were inserted inside the exhibition. So for example, with the Journey, you have written polyester and metal. And what we add as an information is how these materials are working or decomposing in the natural environment, which this for us was really interesting to see how each sculpture brings or puts together many time horizons. So if we would allow these sculptures to stay like this without trying to renovate them each time they come back to the magazine, probably they would be decomposing in a completely different way. Different parts would be decomposing in a different timing. And well, let's go to Agata Ingarden now. Okay. That's the youngest artist that was in our exhibition. Very young artist, Agata Ingarden, who is in collection since 2 years. And this is also metal, polyuteran foam, salt, silicone. And here what was also very triggering our topic for us were insects. So she inserted butterfly wings and butterfly abdomen taken from the natural environment, and she inserted them on this in this sculpture. And that maybe from here we can open up or widen a little bit this topic of matter and decomposing and transforming, because somehow with the decomposition, that the topic of death came very clearly to us. And there are, of course, two ways of looking at it. There's this one idea of affirming death, which comes from a theory of Rosi Braidotti, that nothing never dies. It's only matter in transformation. Even if we think about ourselves as dying, and it's the human perspective on it. Our body will decaying and will be alive as food for some non-humans, etc., etc. But that, of course, ethically is very problematic perspective, thinking about people who do not have a right to have a dignified death, who whose life was taken away. So that's one thing. And the second thing, maybe also important with death, if we think about interdependencies, and that's for me choreographic thinking, because for me choreography is not only human bodies on stage put it together, but actually for me choreography is a tool of noticing the connection within the world. If we think about all the interdependencies, if we can catch at least 1% how we are situated between how many matters, how many different organisms, species, etc., then how can we situate ourselves towards sixth mass extinction? That was also the question that was present in this exhibition. And if we think about interdependency, we might say that extinction is not an extinction, it's a co-extinction. And there is this beautiful quote that when one species dies, something dies in us. So it's never something outside of us. It's always part of the world, of our world, that is dying, which theoretically, I think it's a beautiful concept. Practically, in a global world with such a massiveness of connections, I think it's very difficult to practice. Yet we were kind of trying to practice, at least noticing some parts of the connections. Sorry, I'm speaking a lot now. Kasia, I'm giving you a voice.
No, for me, it was interesting to see the artworks as a species, as a member of the group of the species, not. And also this notion of archive was foreign to me in a way that it was something added to the collection. So the collection was this, and the artworks in the collection were this most important part of the museum and of our daily activity, and all of the comments and all of the materials that are surrounding the artworks are something less important in a way, are research materials. So for me, this notion of archive in the context of artworks, such as like Alina's sculptures, are like amazing artworks, and this is this hierarchy of like importance of the traces that artists left for us in a way. So for me, it was really interesting to see in those, especially in the sculptures, but not only, also in the collages by Maziarska, for example, the traces of the work process, which is maybe obvious for choreographers and dancers, but not so obvious in visual arts, to see the process and to see the traces of the process in the artworks, and to treat them as I don't know, in a way, living organism. That was for me really, really interesting, and how they, in this partly closed exhibition, which we established in November and it opened in February and then closed again in March, was, as we said before we entered we joined all of you, or joined you to our conversation. We were talking about how Agata was proposing this image of like them being there alone and being in the space that is ready for the view but is closed, is like put outside of the view. And what is their role, like their purpose in their existence, in the way also of the museum that is supposed to conserve them and take care of them and show them, of course, to the viewers, and is not allowed in a way of also the sharing of the space is not possible. So that was really something interesting.
What we also can't share here now was the sound, because the entire exhibition was embraced by the landscape, the soundscape made by Justyna Stosiowska. And this was the landscape made out of sounds of matter changing, transforming. So there were lots of cracks, lots of sipping, lots of licking inside, and there were different sources spread around the exhibition. So actually, while moving, you were receiving not one monotonous sound or the sound line, but everywhere there was a different sound. So for me, always this metaphor and not metaphor as well, because that would be a question, what is forest nowadays? But for me, this exhibition was a little bit like a forest when you enter, and you can't, of course, you can come to one artwork and concentrate only on this one, but actually entering, there's already so much information, so many connections, so many different timings in one space, that there was something always overwhelming for me. And I saw this exhibition only when it was closed. I never had chance to see it while other people are coming with also their timings, their perspectives, their situateness in the world. And I would love to see what choreographies they were creating inside, but I didn't have chance to see it. I can only imagine that. What was that?
Yeah, so I think we are like 15 minutes left. Yeah, is that right, Marta? Because we prepared.
Yes, exactly.
In
17 to be very precise.
Yeah, but because I started to talk at the beginning, and in the meantime, I remembered that we had the beginning and ending a little bit different, but I think we don't have time for that, right, Agata? Because we had this, yeah, because I was so stressed about the slide so that.
But I wonder, maybe at least one each. I think it would be interesting. Not
yeah,
only.
and I think we can leave the last 10 minutes for the questions, so then we could use at least the next 5-7 minutes for introducing that. So go ahead, please.
So maybe
you go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Just because most of you didn't have chance, or maybe any of you didn't have chance to see this exhibition, and the exhibition is already closed. We can also imagine lots of stuff, and we would like to. We were also imagining lots of things when the exhibition was closed. So one of the things that I would like to imagine with you is, let's imagine that this exhibition is not closed, that this exhibition is not over. Let's imagine that a letter from 1967 written by Alina Szapocznikow was found, where it is written, I quote, "The sculptures and their matter are in constant transformation, and thus my wish is to allow this transformation to happen." End of quote. Let's imagine this letter was taken as an instruction, and thus one building of the Museum of Arts in Łódź was dedicated for this vision. Let's imagine it is April 2521. The conversation department hasn't touched any of Alina Szapocznikow sculptures. Also, there was no renovation happening in that building. The sculptures are exhibited. The construction of the building is still stable. The roof is leaking. The floor is full of water, and moss is spread in every corner. The journey, the sculpture of Alina that we saw, is in two pieces. From the base of the big beech, small birch trees started to grow. In the halls of sculptures of Aiko Miyawaki, the last bees found their home making copper honey. A microclimate has developed in the remains of this building that tempts new species every now and then. Who knows? And maybe I should say, what knows? Maybe this is the first nature culture museum. Now your turn.
No, but I don't have so amazing. I didn't written that in so amazing way. Yeah, so let's imagine that everything falls apart. Soon there is no electricity. Only the medical equipment is still working. All the servers are broken, all the data gone. We cannot access emails, talk via Zoom, post photos, click likes, or binge watch TV series. We wander around cities and towns and villages and forests. The museums are open, like totally open. We can enter the storages freely. We can enter the building. Just it is open. It is not secured. The curators, the custodians that stay there are saying that we can pick what we want to carry home from the storages, the artworks that we would like to carry home with us. There is no use to keep them in the museum because there are no exhibitions. There is no way to show them publicly. We can live with them. We can build another kind of relations with them, more intimate, more everyday. They can witness our everyday survival in a way, or watching us, we adapt to the new reality, and we still practice magical thinking.
Wonderful. Yeah. I have one more, but I think we don't have.
Yeah, maybe we'll open the floor to the.
We open the floor, exactly.
Yeah. You can
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Agata and Kasia. Although I have to say I'm super tempted to hear another exercise for imagination, but maybe just before going into that, we can ask the participant and of this conversation whether they might immediately have either the questions at the moment or their own desires to share the, let's say, paths for imagination. Is there anybody? You can either, if you want to ask, you can either put the question or share your imagination on the chat, or you can just unmute yourself and speak. Mm-hmm. There is a bit of shyness as always, but let's give a few more seconds.
I think.
Yeah.
Hi, hello.
Hi, Alicia.
I have one question that I want to ask you since the very beginning, since I know that the exhibition is closed, because for me there is something really interesting in accompanying the exhibition that is created using choreographic thinking, and I know how painful it was for you that it was closed and or it was open for a very short time. But I'm curious if there was anything interesting or thought-provoking, also in choreographic terms, or I don't know, institutional terms, maybe for Kasia, that you took out from it. Because for me, I find it extraordinary. If you told me two months ago that you make an exhibition that will be closed and no one will go into, I would be totally, and it would be a choreographic exhibition, I would be totally curious. But somehow from the beginning, is it as if it was a mistake? And I understand why, because also the artworks that you're showing are so haptic, and they are asking so much. They want to be touched. They want that they ask for being with and not looking at us. But maybe ask to be thought about, you know, that as you're just proposing your exercise, maybe they also asking, I'm asking myself as well, are they asking to be part of the new type of imagination? I'm really curious how retrospectively you are, if you feel already that there is something that brought you in another place because of what happened with the exhibition.
Shall I?
Yes.
Sure. Okay. Well, thank you, Alicia. Well, lots of things actually. I mean, I think there would be a different way to work on knowing that the exhibition is going to be closed. No, like we are making an exhibition that is going to be closed. That's from the concept from the beginning would be different. I got invited when there was no pandemic, so I still I was still working. I still have a performance that was made within this exhibition. So that would be definitely interesting work. But since it happened, what happened? I think I really learned that, like most of the time, I think lots of us think about the final product, that there is this opening, that there is this premiere, that there is this gala, and here it couldn't happen. It didn't happen. And of course, we need these openings in order to hear some voices or have this champagne together, because we work very hard, and this kind of gratification from friends is very important. And here it was a little bit taken away from us, because when you can't enter, you actually don't see, you don't experience that. So this happened from one point, but on the other hand, and that's, thank you, Kasia, for that, because you were constantly saying that, yes, but the process was interesting, but this fantastic that we have this process and we continue this process. And we were continuing this process even when the exhibition was finished, but was not finished, because no one knew if it's finished or not, because we couldn't confront it with the audience, etc., etc. So it was in a constant transformation. And I think because it lasts so long, I think that my thinking about it was expanding a lot. But just the last thing, I'm giving you, Kasia, the floor. I think that what is haptic, I think that's also changed for me. I still have a huge resistance of showing works online. I decided not to show the performance streamed. I really don't understand what is performance happening on the screen. But I think we need to be prepared for thinking hapticism differently. And maybe that's not necessary through the screen. Maybe actually that is through stories, little stories, small stories, bits, pieces, shimmers. Yes, to still practice certain attentiveness. Because I think that screen not necessarily gives us this chance to be attentive. I think that I'm actually losing attention more and more through Zooms, etc. So that's definitely, let's say, a lesson for the future, like how we can expand choreographic thinking and hapticism if we don't have this chance. Yeah.
I think for me it was different, because I could, like now I think retrospectively, I could focus more on relations and relationships, and my curatorial work as like, yeah, taking care of mainly people and their like process and relations between me and people who create this exhibition, Agata, Justyna, Przemek, who was a producer, and a lot of different people. So that was for me the the exhibition is not available, which is all like usually the main focus, and I could focus more on taking care of that, of people that are creating this situation, which was for me very important. And also the fact that this paradox, which was for me very fruitful, that we are, of course, like we created the exhibition, as Agata said, before the pandemic, before anyone knew about the pandemic. So we created, like we focused, as you heard, on the matter, on the like physicality of the artworks, and that like tension between not being able to show it and to be, for example, and to have conversations in the space was kind of, I don't know, paradoxically or even perversively like interesting, like triggering, that it's not conceptual exhibition. It was focused on matter, but it didn't, like I didn't have chance to be in the same time and space and have the conversations about the artworks in front of them in a way that usually happens. So, and also the notion, which I never think about while creating exhibitions, and I work for the museum for, like, I've worked here since 2009, so it's like, yeah, it's 12 years. So I should have this notion of that I am also creating archives, that I'm also creating these traces of what happened in this institution in a way. So like being in present, I immediately, also because I isolated a lot and I'm still isolating a lot. And I'm really, in a way, accepting that. Yeah, in a way that I like, yeah, that we are in the past in a way, like being in the present, I am already in the past in certain way, and I'm creating the past. I don't know. And
but you mentioned the traces, and I think since we were so much thinking through Ursula Le Guin again about these little stories, about bits and pieces, actually that was the only thing that was available also for you in this exhibition, because what you were receiving were our stories about these exhibitions. We had 2 podcasts like as a part of this exhibition. There were some images running like around, but never somehow this experience, this core, all these small things. So maybe actually this exhibition decided for itself that no, you're not going to show the main exhibition. No, show the bits that you were taking care so much when you were reading Le Guin. Here you are.
Which makes the whole situation maybe even more interesting, because listening to you and not having a chance to see the actual exhibition, I keep thinking that on one hand, I read what you were describing and what you created there through your story. That's my only kind of way to access it. And what I'm reading is a kind of attempt to build a kind of counter archive or a counter hegemonic archive also of the history of art. And that's super fascinating. And even though it's this kind of an archive that is really only temporary, as the exhibition has only been temporary, of course, I'm super tempted to understand or to try to imagine, okay, if there was, even if for a moment, a kind of alternative archive, then what's the way to, in a way, transfer it further or share it with the others who didn't have a chance to actually experience that? So for instance, listening to you, I understood that because also definitely not every archive is possible or is inviting to be translatable into words, into written forms. And then listening to you, I understood that maybe it's you both that are the carriers of the, so to speak, knowledge or experience that has been sparked during this exhibition, created in frames of the exhibition. And maybe that's also the way how the story of the exhibition will be created. It might be the traces that you will leave through your practice further on.
We
Yes,
are
and
the
also-
exhibition, no?
Yeah.
We are the exhibition in a way. We were exhibiting
also-
this exhibition.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, and I want to because I am afraid that I will forget to stress that the performance by Agata will be a part of the collection. So now we will start to work on how to transfer it to the Museum of Visual Arts, which is really like the structures of what can enter the collection and how it will function after we are long gone. In a way, that was also like a little bit of a stretch, like how but we will so Agata will be in the collection in a way.
Yes, I gave my body to the collection.
I see that Rivka is raising her hand.
Is there time for another?
Absolutely. Yeah, let's go ahead. Absolutely.
Okay. I'm noticing that I'm really liking what becomes possible when something is no longer possible. And also, funny that you used the word haptic today. It was Alcia. Because it's the first time this morning I heard that word ever. So it came across twice. I didn't realize it was optic and haptic. So that's a joy. And then I noticed in terms of not being there physically, I'm now able to be in many, many more places than I was ever before. Although I'm not there physically, I'm still there energetically and emotionally. And I'm also noticing when I was reading about the materials, you were talking about the materials, of course, I know some of those materials. I remember the smell, I remember the touch. So the story itself of what you were sharing with me, I can therefore have an experience of sorts, for sure. It's like if I watch somebody burn their hand, I will have a reaction to that in my own body. And I was just wondering if there is something there that can translate our experience with something, even if we can't be there. And also, I don't remember being much in galleries where I could touch things, so, but wanted to. And I went to an exhibition yesterday, actually, in a place where I wasn't. I actually really appreciate it. It was a lot about people talking about or telling a story around it. I think that's all I want to say. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Rivka. Thanks for sharing that.
I agree with the notion of being in places that, yes.
But and that's from one point. Now we can watch also performances we wouldn't see because, like, I don't know, we can't travel here and there. But still, for me, I think it is a question: what kind of formats? I don't think that one-to-one really serves. Really takes care of what live performance is, and I don't have still answers. I think that will be our task for next years, because I'm sure it's not the last pandemic. But yeah, I don't know. We need to find a way how performance can happen or have similar effect, tangible effect. Yeah, maybe that's not a screen. Maybe that's not an image. Maybe
we don't know yet what it could be, right? Maybe we don't know the matter or the mean yet. Yeah. Thank you a lot. Since our time is almost up, I would just take this last few seconds to thank you both, Agata and Kasia, for sharing this exhibition with us. I really think it is a huge privilege for us to be able to be kind of guided through it by you, and I wish so much I could have experienced that. But as Rivka said, in a way, I do feel I did in a way. And it's really interesting now to understand how the information and the experience you've been sharing is kind of landing in the thoughts and also in the kind of emotions. And I'm really wondering how it may grow in the future. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much.
And I do invite all of you to the next meeting that will happen in 24 minutes.
Thank you.
Can we? I have a little request.
Yes,
from
Petra.
Berlin. Hello.
Hello.
If we just could all bring our cameras
Absolutely.
on and raise the class to Kasia and Agata to have that
Yeah.
little celebration that
Thank
they
you.
didn't have in the have.
It's so
Uh,
beautiful. Let's do it.
Thank you so much for this virtual exhibition opening, ending performance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.